So, thanks to a leak from a issue of Moon Knight called Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, which is the return of Mark Spector, part of the ongoing Jed MacKay run for Moon Knight. We basically got some information about who is going to take over for Zeb Wells after his final story arc in Spider-Man, and it's kind of a big one. That person is Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly has been a major writer for both Marvel and DC and has also done independent work for comics as well. He's kind of a big deal in terms of comic writing. So to have like a big name writer take over for Spider-Man is a really cool thing. Now, let's get on to one thing. The Zeb Wells run of Spider-Man has been kind of bad, to say the least. Ranging from stupid Spider-Goblin to killing off Kamala just for the sole reason so she could be resurrected as a mutant, to Paul. Fucking Paul. Yeah, and also Zeb Wells' weird obsession with Tombstone. Which, not a bad thing. Like, Tombstone's a cool villain, and it's nice to see the lesser Spider-Man villains get more appreciation. But, like, he really wanted to make Tombstone a big villain, and then did, like, twice we did Evil Spider-Man with this Spider-Goblin shit and this, other stuff. Yeah. So, now I personally have, while I have not liked the Spider-Man run, I haven't gone about attacking Zeb Wells, saying how much he sucks. I've met Zeb Wells. He's pretty fun. He's a pretty nice guy. I like telling this story is that while I'm at MegaCon, Mount Vernon Kid and I met Zeb Wells, and I was cosplaying Ben Reilly. And if you guys know, at the time, Ben Reilly wasn't going through a lot of good stuff at the time, and Wells was writing that. So I said, hey, would it be okay if, like, I, was pretending to attack you, and, would that be okay? And he's like, oh yeah, you should choke me. And he's like, yeah, you should pretend to choke me. And he's like, cool. I don't know if that ever got on he said it was part of his, social media, but yeah, I was pretending to, as Ben Reilly, to, like, attack Zeb Wells, and he thought it was the funniest shit ever. But yeah, but having said that, and I understand that Wells isn't completely to blame for how this Spider-Man run has gone. Marvel Editorial and more importantly, Spider-Man Editorial is to blame. I don't blame him. Now that we know that Kevin Feige basically asked Marvel to kill off Kamala just so she could become a mutant, and so they could explain that in the MCU, we now know that's not his fault. We now know the whole death and resurrection of Miss Marvel was not his fault in the slightest. So, you know, I'm giving him, was the story good? No, but clearly he was marching orders. But still, I digress, is that a lot of it still wasn't good. But I'm also not going to be an asshole to him, because I understand that, yeah, I'm not going to send him death threats over his email. But yeah, so what does that mean for Joe Kelly to take over for Spider-Man? Joe Kelly has written multiple stories of Spider-Man in the various titles throughout his time as a Marvel writer. He's very proficient. He's done a lot of great comics from Batman, Superman. He has a lot of pedigree to him, and that might give him a little more say as to what he can do in it for the Spider-Man title. Now, I don't know if he'd have to fight Editorial. In fact, even Bendis had to fight the Marvel Editorial when he was doing Ultimate Spider-Man. In fact, I usually think about remember that story in Ultimate Spider-Man where Peter and Logan switch bodies, and it's heavily implied that while Logan was in Peter's body, he had sex with Mary Jane? There was a little epilogue in that comic with Bendis strangling Nicholas Kime, the head of the Spider-Man editor group, being like, you told me to do this issue. You forced me to fucking do this comic. This stupid book that I didn't want to do. So that kind of sets a precedent to Spider-Man. Spider-Man's greatest enemy is Marvel Editorial. So I am. So will it be better? I don't know. Will Joe Casey be able? Joe Kelly. I keep trying to say Joe Casey. There's so many Joes in Marvel. But could Joe Kelly bring some spark back into Spider-Man? It's really hard to say. It really depends on how much they're going to give him and how much Editorial's going to try to stop him. Like, we all thought Spider-Man and, Peter and MJ were going to get back together in Nick Spencer's run, but apparently word on this, I can't confirm this, but word on the street is that he was close to undoing undoing One More Day because Marvel Editorial was Spider-Man editors were asleep at the wheel, so he was trying to like sneak that back in, but at the last moment they basically found out what he was doing and shit canned him off the book, and that's why he had a co-writer at the last few issues, and his run came to a premature end. Yeah. So I would believe that. I actually believe that for some reason Spider-Man, thank God for the new Jonathan Hickman Ultimate Spider-Man. And I feel like Spider-Man and Marvel Editorial would be like, you can't, and Hickman would look over and go, can't what? Can't what? Jonathan Hickman, bitch. He's like, and the rest of Marvel Editorial is just like, yes, daddy. But anyway, so am I interested in Joe Kelly era of Spider-Man? Yeah, I think he's a great writer, and I think he'll do some cool things. But it really, you have to also understand that, at this time, Zeb Wells' run has clearly shown more. And I'm not saying Nick Spencer's run was golden; it had its dents, but he was at least trying to do damage control. But it wasn't. And Zeb Wells' run has been a shit show. Not all of his fault, but he does have to shoulder some of the blame. So Joe Kelly, I think, will have a little more say because of his creative control, because of how much power he has as a writer. But it still has to deal with Marvel Editorial. And again, like I was trying to say earlier, is that one thing the Zeb Wells run has done more than anything else is kind of expose how little power a writer has at Marvel, especially when it comes to a big-name character like Spider-Man. So therein lies right there is that it shows that no matter what the writer was, and we were all kind of cheering for Zeb Wells at the start to do a Spider-Man book, but clearly, again, I don't know if Paul was his idea, and again, rumor is that, and again, this one you really have to take with a grain of salt, because because this came from sources that made me go, I'm pressing X to doubt here. But the other rumor was that the reason Paul came to be and why the character was made was because Zeb Wells was going through a divorce and projected Paul as the whole thing with Spider-Man and MJ was just kind of projection for the divorce. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true, but at the same time, it sounds so insane that I would almost believe it. But yeah. So, good luck, Joe Kelly. I look forward to your Spider-Man run, but at the same time, good fucking luck. I'm sure, Ultimate Spider-Man is where all the real Spider-Man, all the love for Spider-Man is going. Also, one more thing I want to see out of this Spider-Man run, not just, I'm not going to say Mary Jane and Peter get back together, but what I want to see, and this is something that's been going on since the Nick Spencer run, is that what I want to see is Spider-Man be the forefront of his stories, not be the running sidecar in his own fucking title. That's been a thing since the Nick Spencer run, where it really felt like a lot of those stories in both Spencer and Zeb's and Wells' runs was that he really did feel like he's just running sidecar and everyone else is the main focus, and he's the supporting character in his own damn book. So, Kelly, would it be really too much to ask to make a Spider-Man book about Spider-Man and not Amazing Friends plus Spider-Man? I don't know, that's just me. Anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of Joe Kelly taking over for Spider-Man? Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.